Alright guys, so the Xbox and Bethesda E3 event just ended, and after watching the Ubisoft Forward event yesterday, decided we're going to go through, pick apart all of the trailers, because at this point we've seen everything, for the most part, that we're going to see. There might be a game that pops up and surprises us here and there, but again, all the big titles we've seen for the most part at this point. So again, I'm not going to talk about all of them, because that would be impossible. We'd be here for hours, but just a couple that I wanted to focus on. So the first one is obviously Far Cry 6. And at first, I was kind of excited for this game, when they showed the teaser a little over a year ago now, I think, at this point, and I still am excited, but at this point, I've played Far Cry 3, 4, Primal 5, and New Dawn, right? And so, well, the primary focus of Far Cry games, for the most part, is almost always the story, particularly the villain. The main character never really has much to say. But that being said, the gameplay in at least 3 and 4 was somewhat new and refreshing, right? And we're getting to a point where every Far Cry game pretty much looks like the same game. And that's how I feel about this. If you didn't change the setting and like the color theme of the game, right? Because it's just a lot of orange and there's teal blues and some reds here and there, and freaking Far Cry 5 is very purple and blue and just very, very bright, right? But other than that, it pretty much, to me at least, looks like the same game. It doesn't look great. I mean, it looks fine, it'll do, but it's not stunning. It doesn't, use the power of the new consoles or anything like that. It looks okay, right? Even the faces, again, they don't look bad, but they don't look amazing or, like they're using some type of new technology within the graphics department. And so, again, with that being said, I'm not super excited for Far Cry 6. Obviously, I'm still going to play it. I hope it's great. But this is definitely the one that I'm least excited for on this list. Now, in direct contrast to Far Cry 6, Rainbow Six Extraction looks quite good, right? I'm not expecting it to blow me out of the park. I'm not expecting it to win any awards, but it's just a zombie shooter with the Rainbow Six Siege operators and mechanics, which, by me, that's perfect. I'll play that all day. Looks good. Looks like it has at least a bit of a story. I don't think I really expected it to have one, but if it does and if it's good, great. Again, I'm just looking for more lore within the Rainbow Six universe and introducing the new characters, and with Rainbow and how they introduce new operators the way it is now, one every couple of months, so for a year, this game will have expansions that can go on forever theoretically, right? When they release a new season with a new operator within the main game, they can release a new level with the new operator and new abilities within this game. And honestly, I don't have much to say. I mean, the gameplay looks good. It was what I'm expecting. It's just more of the limited time game mode that was within the game a couple years ago. Like I said, nothing crazy, exactly what I expected, but there's nothing wrong with that. It still looks very good, and this was a very well done trailer, even though we all know this isn't what the actual game is going to look like. And there was some gameplay, but I figured this was more fun to show. Now, flipping that coin and talking about stuff that no one was really expecting, let's talk about the Avatar game. So after thinking about it, this game has me really worried, because I think you can do this game really bad really easily. It's a lot harder to make this game terrible than it is to make it good, right? Because if you look back at all the movie licensed game, like for example, if we just use the MCU, right? The Thor game, the Hulk game, the Iron Man game's okay, but just a lot of movie licensed games are typically terrible, right? It's those spam X and press B occasionally to dodge, kind of the low tier Batman style gameplay. And so they don't show any gameplay here, so you don't know what type of game this is going to be. If it's going to be kind of like a linear story game where you're just in essentially a straight line, just following the story and beating up different types of enemies. If it's going to be something like along the lines of Fallen Order, where you have different locations that are open but not completely open world and you're following the story, or if it's just going to be like an Assassin's Creed game and just be completely open. You can go and do whatever you want with main and side objectives. We don't know. Honestly, I think Fallen Order style of game where you have open areas but it's not completely open, would do well, because I think with what we have with just the one movie that's out, I don't think, they have the material to do an Ubisoft sized world, right? Now, that being said, Ubisoft does the worlds really well. I talk about it in my Assassin's Creed video that's over an hour long, and they typically do a good job. I'm just saying, with if they're going directly on original content that's in the movie and not making anything up, I'm not sure if there's everything there to do the Ubisoft style, your towers and your collectibles and your side objectives and your stashes and all that stuff that they typically do. I think a more story focused, open area type game would do really well with an Avatar game. Next, I want to talk about Stalker, and I'm trying to speed through these early ones so we can get to the main three that I really want to talk about. But I do want to talk about Stalker. It looks good. It just looks like Metro with a little bit more craziness going on. You got monsters, you got all your Russian weapons. It looks like that gritty, dark, just shoot 'em up survival type game, right? I'll definitely be playing this one. Visually, it looks good. It looks like it'll be a bit spooky again, like Metro. So we'll have those streamer moments where everyone falls out of their chair, the monster jumps out of the water when you're in a little canoe. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But again, I don't have much to say. This game doesn't come out for almost a whole entire year, so we've got time before we get to this one. But let's talk about what I would say are the main three for the weekend. One of them might be debatable, but I want to talk about it anyways. So first one I want to talk about, the big one, Halo Infinite, right? They showed a little bit of story with a lot of multiplayer. Personally, I don't really care for Halo multiplayer if they're going to go down the same route. They typically do, and that's just because, for the most part, the progression in these games are kind of weak. It's just play multiplayer for the fun of multiplayer, and if you enjoy that, that's your thing. Go for it. I'm not hating, but personally, I need some sort of progression, something to work towards, a reason to be playing. Like I said, they didn't show much story content. I'm kind of hoping they just kill off Master Chief in this one, let it end. I think that would be the perfect ending, but they probably won't do that. What do I know? Maybe they'll surprise me. The thing I want to bring up is that, before we move on, all of these games, except for the next one we're going to talk about, are going to be on Game Pass. So essentially, they're all $5. I'll be reviewing them all when they release, and that'll definitely impact the rating with the pricing. Typically, what I do is I give two scores, a Game Pass and a full price score, so you can look forward to those videos when we get there. So for me, from this weekend, everything we've seen, Battlefield, I almost said 5, I almost said 6. 2042 is the thing I'm looking forward to the most, but also the thing I feel like could possibly be messed up the most. So the very first thing I want to say, it is pre-alpha, so I'm gonna be optimistic, but this HUD looks terrible. It's way too big. Everything on the left, all of those names, that looks awful. Get rid of that. All right, and I'm nitpicking now. I'll get into the good stuff in a minute. Everything in the bottom right, move it down more. It's way too big. Make it smaller. But aside from that, everything looks great. Right, the game looks good. It's gonna be a bunch of players, big maps. You got your evolution with weather, the vehicle crashing, which is a thing I nitpick all the time in these types of games. That looks great. The maps look cool. It looks like Battlefield 3 and 4, but with just modern graphics, right? Which is exactly what I wanted. Fortunately, there's no campaign, so there won't be that to look forward to, which, again, they're not the greatest campaigns, but they are fun. There's going to be no Battle Royale, which I'm not complaining. It's just focused on multiplayer. And so for a $60 price tag for just multiplayer, it might even be more than that for the next gen versions of the game. It better be quite good, is all I have to say. This type of stuff I'm not a huge fan of, but if you want to hear us talk about in detail a lot about all of these games, go check out the TRSS podcast. The link is in the description. We do a podcast every week talking about movies and games and shows and all of that stuff. And we're going to focus on E3 this week. It's probably going to be quite long, and we'll focus a lot on Battlefield. So make sure you guys go check that out. So for me, the biggest sleeper game of E3 is Forza Horizon 5. I knew the game was coming out along with the new Motorsports game. I knew that they were going to show it off. but this game looks so good, and they always look good, and I'm always surprised every time they release them by how good they look. Gameplay wise, yeah, it's the same game over and over again. You drive cars in a circle and you race each other and you buy new cars. It's pretty much the same thing every however many years, 3, they release these games, right? It's just the location that changes, the cars, and the visual upgrade. But I just think this game looks great, and this is a lot of cinematic stuff, but they do get to gameplay within the trailer eventually, and I think it just looks fantastic. That's my list. Again, obviously these aren't all the trailers. They showed a lot of other stuff, Outer Worlds 2, Starfield, some other stuff that I'm blanking on right now. But, I mean, it was an hour and a half long, and they showed, I think it was 30-some games. Obviously, I don't want to talk about them all, but I want to talk about the ones that I'm most excited for and the big name ones. So you guys let me know what your favorite trailer or reveal was down in the comments below, which ones you didn't like, which ones surprised you, and I'll see you guys on the next one.